Hello, so today we're going to compare and contrast SL and HL global politics. I take HL and
And I take SL.
yeah. So we're gonna first talk about the similarities and differences like in general. I think the HL and SL course is mainly similar in terms of like the SL course is both covered by SL and HL students. But HL students have we learn like global political challenge to construct our HL orals, and we do in our year we did three HL orals, and then we choose two out of that. But mainly it's the same, but for HL we just have like three more case studies that we have to research on our own. But concept and content wise is mainly similar.
Yeah, so we just have that. So the SL class and the HL class basically share the same class for 2 of the days, and then the
Yeah.
HL just has one more extra class to work on only HL stuff. So yeah.
And then for exams, like HL people has one more essay to write than SL people. And but then on the other hand, SL people's like waiting for essay is heavier, right? Because you
Yeah.
guys don't have HL orals, but the IA is the same.
Yeah, the
So,
IA is
yeah.
weighs the same, and then the paper two for us weighs about 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's.
And then I think for us it's like 40 or 45 or something.
Yeah.
So why we chose like SL or HL? I chose HL because, well, I was like really interested in politics, but like specifically like international politics. But I never got to learn that in my previous school, so I thought it'd be an interesting opportunity to um, take an IB subject like for 2 years to learn more in depth about politics. But I didn't know like specifically what the course structure was. I mean, it's the structure is really nice, and I got to learn a lot of like new things. But it's more like international, politics. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
we look at case studies on an international level, not on national level. We don't do this parliament did this, or
Yeah, yeah.
this government functions this way. Although
Yeah.
it's like politics is more like how international community govern itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Same with me because like this is the first time that the school actually offers the topic after like a bunch of pilots in other schools. So I just chose it as an SL because I'm not really a humanities person, but then this is something that I have a very much an interest in. So I chose it, and then the same kind of interest with international relations and how the world worked. That's what I was curious about. So I decided to take SL instead. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's a good opportunity for you to unfold what's happening, or to like look at current political issue from an actual academic perspective. It's really different from just reading like BBC or Guardian.
Yeah.
You gain much different perspective and backgrounds and stuff. Especially when you get to like research it for a case study, and you're like, oh, so this is why this happened, or this
Yeah.
is why this actor responded in this way. So
And similarly, like that's always going to be relevant, right? Because you always keep up with the
Yeah.
news, and it's a good thing because if you haven't keep up with the news before, you're starting to do it now since you're in
Yeah.
this, and then you're starting to understand more about each article you
Yeah.
read. So you don't just
Yeah.
have a basic understanding of it, but
And you
have
also
more
you
depth
also
on it.
come to analyze, even if it's a case study that you never heard of, or an article that you never thought it was related to your case study. You kind of find links within
Yeah.
the current like political issues that's going on, and I think it's really interesting. Like when we're just analyzing like Trump election,
Yeah.
you can link that to a lot of the laws or policies that is passed in the U.S. Like, I find that really interesting. How is the course structured? Like it's for SL and HL, it's mainly the same because we have two classes together out of three. Only the third one in HL, like I'll just like talk specifically about
Yeah.
HL first. So in HL, the first 3 months or so, we did, we covered all the global political challenge that we have to use for HL orals, and then we learned their, interconnection with other global political concepts that we learned like in SL course as well. And then we also did one like sample case study on Rohingya Muslims to get a sense of how to construct HR oral, and then we did three like formal HR oral, which is probably like 2 or 3 months process, where maybe longer than that, but like you do research and then you present to your teacher with like each part of the research that you've done, and then you write a script. Your teacher gives just one feedback, and then you do a formal presentation. Yeah, and then you
Okay.
can talk about SL structure.
Yeah, the SL structure is basically the same, except that we don't have the oral. So the first few months, if we basically just learn content, we do a bit of practice with the papers as well. So we have an idea of what to expect in the exam, in the upcoming mock at the end of grade 11. And also so after that we goes into the IA. The IA stream starts near the end of the first year.
Yeah,
Preparation were made like 2 months before the end, and then during the summer you start to do your IA, which is the engagement activity that we have in Global, and they just basically get a chance to focus on like an international issue as well. So while the HL have like a few other chances, we have this one chance to work either locally in Singapore or in your home country or anywhere you want where you have a relevant political issue that you can work on.
What do you like about the structure? Oh yeah, I think the structure of the course is really nice in terms of like we learn concepts, but then case studies on top of it, so it allows you to like build on your understanding of the whole course, because like some of the subjects you do one unit and it's done, and after the revision test, like you never come back to it unless there's an exam. Whereas Global, like you constantly have to find connections with other case studies, and like draw links to concepts and theories and all this stuff. So it's a course that builds on top of every like everything that you've learned. Whereas some subject is like one is done and that's it.
Yeah, that's the main thing I like about it as well. And the other thing is what I mentioned before, like you get to learn a lot more about the intricacy, the links between the subject, and then you can apply it to like the current real world events that we are learning, and we get a few chances to talk about that in class as well. So that's what I like about that. And what is the challenge about the course?
I think it's challenging because no matter how much understanding you have of the content or theory, it's difficult to apply those understanding to the essays, like to paper 2, specifically because I think the global paper 2 is really different from the way that other subject demands you to write an essay. I think it's much more like difficult, and they expect so much of understanding as well as application and evaluation. And there's no like concrete structure in terms of like you can't approach a question and be like, oh, I know this, I can you always have to like really deeply think how you can approach it and stuff. So I think that is challenging, even after like 2 years I find that so challenging to find a good plan to answer the question correctly.
Same with me. So like essay writing is definitely one of the main things that you need to focus on when joining Global. And so basically we have a lot of chances to practice that, but even then it still gets difficult. It just depends on how good you are at English, like as in writing in general. And you need to be able to plan really well. So like a good plan results in a good essay. That's it.
And also just even like some subjects you listen to class and you're like, oh, I know this, you can write it. But it's not like that. You have to
link to concepts from the case.
Well, you kind of have to do that in your own time, right? Like you have to
exactly.
link to concepts and theories. You have to think about similarities within different case studies to see which one is the best to use in certain, arguments and all the stuff. I find that like really challenging. Also, even the essay writing, like within the time frame, is so difficult. We had to write one essay in 15 minutes, and I think the global essay is relatively longer than the other essays, which like normally it's like 3.5 pages for like normal essays, right? But global, like they normally expect more. Like they expect max around like 5 or 6 paragraphs per essay. I think that's a lot, and for HO we had to write 3 in a row. Like my just like physically and mentally is draining.
Okay. So how does the global compare to your other SL or HL subjects?
What do you think, like from the SL perspective?
In the SL perspective, I don't have any other humanities, but I can compare to the English workload to a certain extent. But then, like I noticed very different. But comparatively to other SL, I think I got more work from Global than any other of my SL, and that would be different if I have another humanities SL. Then I would know more how to compare it. But then I think this is like not that much of a frame of reference.
Because I take history as well. Both of my like global and history are so content heavy, but in my perspective, I think global requires more, like more confidence in essay writing, I guess. And memorization wise, I think like subject like history is much more heavy on memorization and the content. But global application, like the skills that you need to apply all your knowledge is, it's quite tough. And there's much more independent work expected than other subjects, I think, other than my HLs. So, I mean, if you're good at like time management and independent work, then I think it's fine. I guess it's a good preparation for college, like university courses, anyways. But I think it's quite tough, like especially at the beginning, like grade 11 mocks.
Yeah.
You're just like, what what am I supposed to do? Like I mean, obviously they gave you good guidance, but it's still difficult to just get into the exam mode and.
Yeah, and it's definitely harder for SL for that as well, because like our entire like predicted grade is based on the paper 2. So if you can do well on the paper 2, if you try your hardest on the paper 2, then that's where you're gonna shine, and that's where you're gonna get like a lot of recognition for. But that's all. Yeah. So there's also the downside and the upside. If you can't really get your paper 2 up, then it's very hard to get a good grade in global. But that's the only area that you need to focus in global. So.
But it's difficult to improve it in a short amount of time. Like even with like 2 years of practicing, it's still so hard for me to do it. So I think it's really difficult.